We know that medical commercial collaboration is a known challenge. If it's not done well, it leads to negative consequences. Negative consequences on efficiency in the collaboration, but also negative consequences on customer experience and outcome. We have asked 100 KOLs around the globe on how they see the value of scientific exchange with the industry. And over 90% told us that they see the importance of this exchange increasing. They were actually happy with the collaboration with the industry. More than 80% said they're satisfied. But also, more than 40% said there's a lack of coordination between the functions, specifically medical and commercial. To discuss this topic, I sat down with two experts, Pascal Vande Gucht of UCB and Georgios Tramountanis of Takeda. Welcome, Pascal and Georgios. Super happy to have you here. We talk about the medical commercial collaboration, the benefits, the challenges. It's great to have you. Would you maybe introduce yourselves quickly?
Certainly. Good afternoon, Christoph. Pascal Vande Gucht, part of UCB, responsible for medical digital analytics solutions and working 7 years in medical affairs.
Georgios Tramountanis, part of the Takeda pharmaceutical and leading global medical affairs for data, digital and technology.
Thank you. So now the first question. Why is it important to get the medical commercial collaboration right? Do you want to start, Pascal?
Certainly. We see a huge explosion of launches over the last 5 and coming 5 years. So it's critical that clinical, medical and commercial are seamlessly working together to really have a good launch success. And I think it's crucial. Something to add, Georgios?
Yeah, I think the only way we can really master a launch excellence is by combining all those functions together. You can do an okay launch if you're a bit disconnected, but if you really want to maximize the impact and reach as many patients as you can, you have to work very closely together with clinical as a medical affairs function, but also with commercial organization as a medical affairs function.
And thank you. Can you maybe describe a bit like what are the outcomes if it's not working well, right? So what's happening? What are the downsides if it's not working as we think it should?
If it's not working well, we really miss the opportunity to improve patient outcomes very significantly. And not having the right collaboration means that the way we talk about medicines, the way we describe the unmet needs, the way we describe the mode of action can be different between the functions. And of course, that will lead to confusion from healthcare providers, patients, even investors in our medicines. At the same time, if we don't collaborate well, we will have non-optimal engagement with HCPs, duplication of effort, and we will lose time both as an industry, but also when we meet with the healthcare providers.
So you would say, if it's not done well, we are sort of missing opportunity to sort of inform HCPs, right, about the treatments and then sort of the health patients, but also sort of internal view efficiency and customer experience. Would you agree, Pascal, to that?
Certainly. And what I also want to add, which also came up during the discussions in different workshops during this summit, is also it's even more difficult to launch assets in indications where you're new. So established relationships is important. And if you are launching in an indication where you already have a certain reputation, the lack of collaboration can be a little bit solved. It still will not be perfect. But if you have a lack of medical collaboration with commercial in new indications, then you are losing completely the momentum.
That's super interesting. So you mentioned not only medical commercial, but you also mentioned clinical. And of course, there's market access too, right? So there are these critical functions. Could you maybe describe sort of how you went about this in your organization, the process to improving the challenges that we just described?
Certainly. One of our first actions was really also to increase a bit customer understanding. What we call customer understanding is try to create more visibility around the engagements with HCPs across the different departments. First of all, we focused within medical, because you have field medical, and then what we called in-office medical. How can we create more transparency around those engagements? Secondly, is also include clinical in their engagements related to the study sites. How can we make that transparent and bring those data into our CRM where we have already medical market access and commercial collaborating with each other. A second point is then also using those data from the engagements to detect insights, which can then be used to validate assumptions or answer business questions. Georgios?
Yeah, I think from our side, we leverage a little bit the content a bit more. So what we try to do is, and I know most companies will have, integrated brand teams where you have different parties of commercial, clinical, medical sitting down together and designing the strategy of the products. But we know also that as time goes by, they decide on the tactic, the strategy, the language, it slightly changes, but then over time it will diverge significantly. So what we wanted to do is give visibility to the medical materials to functions outside of medical. So we did that with compliance, allow the view that is controlled, but allows functions outside of medical to have direct access to the approved medical materials. So that will help them really to keep being aligned on the message. Because as we talked previously, the way you communicate your medicine, your mode of action, your disease state, your unmet need is very, very critical. So leveraging content to be aligned on how we speak about our medicines was very critical, and we thought it really helped the different teams stay aligned on the language. And then we also relied heavily on the engagement excellence. So what we try to do is maximize the visibility of different parts of the organization talking to the same KOL. We know that clinical teams, R&D teams, medical, commercial, will speak to the same HCPs and KOLs. So what we want to do is give visibility to the other functions of what we're doing so that we can be aligned and can also have transparency so they know when we're speaking to the same person. Because it doesn't look good if you walk into the office of someone and you don't know that he spoke to your colleague 3 days ago, right? So that really helps us be much more aligned and coordinated in how we approach the discussion with ACPs and the communication.
Maybe one addition, certainly an emerging capability within pharma and led by medical is what we call an integrated evidence process. So how do we bring all the evidence needed beyond regulatory approval to secure pricing, to evolve your business strategy, because within the clinical trials you can't create all the evidences that are needed. So you want to have evolved messaging that are, I would say, backed by related evidences. And then also to see the more evidence, real data, real evidence that you are bringing live, the more probability that you have that you can also increase and impact a little bit the guidelines at country level. So that's an important capability, which is also cross-functionally.
And which tools have you been using for this? I mean, you mentioned at UCB, so CRM as the platform where the functions get together. You mentioned sort of content tools.
One of the tools that we are using is key people to have the same source of how do we identify and understand scientific experts. We are using workflow for our early assets. And what do we mean with early assets? Are assets where we don't have field medical teams yet deployed, but more the preparation around what is the unmet need, what is the value of our asset that is in clinical phase 1, phase 2 trial. So for that we are using workflow, and then we are using workflow also for the engagements during congresses. And we try then to bring all those data together in key people, but also in the CRMs.
Okay, and for you?
Yeah, I think for us, especially for content, we definitely use Vault, and we enable that view for the commercial team within the medical Vault. So it was very important. And as Pascal, we've been started to use Linky people to give us visibility on ACPs and KOLs that we need to be engaged with, identifying, new thought leaders and move outside of we know who we know, try to identify new important stakeholders for us, and then leveraging workflow to plan and engage effectively cross-functionally on how we meet and how we engage with those new ACPs and KOLs.
Thank you. Interesting. So you're using CRM as a platform, linking people, sort of deep customer data, link workflow to sort of organize Vault for the content piece. What else does it need, outside of technology, right? Is it sort of additional skills? Is it other capabilities? Is it mindset? Like, how do you get sort of the functions to buy in and actually live this cross-functional approach?
Change management is crucial, but it's all started with senior leadership buy-in on what and why we are doing things, and does it fit with a little bit the company priorities. So senior leadership buy-in by change management, and then really create that engagement movement within the company. The impacted teams, and you have the medical teams, also then the cross-functional teams needs to be aware, the more technical teams, IT, the data teams, but then also critical partners or compliance, legal needs to be aware what you try to do, which kind of data are you trying to integrate, is it not conflicting with data privacy or other agreements with vendors. So it's a huge, I would say, mobilization of a company.
Yeah, it's very critical. Ways of working. You can have the best platform in the world. If your processes and your ways of working don't work together with the platform, it's not going to bring any value to the organization. So I think really nailing down the ways of working, as Pascal mentioned, make sure that the leaders are supporting, they give the why and the how to their teams, so they can engage the platforms, use them as we intend, and really bring the value back is very critical. Change management needs to start very early in the process. I know at times we tend to identify the platform, then launch it, and then try to bring everybody around it. That doesn't work well. You start early, you engage your change management champions, you explain what you're trying to achieve, what is the platform trying to do, what is our new ways of working. And if you do that early on, then when it's live, then you can really, have all the benefits you intended to. So it's very critical. I totally agree with Pascal there.
So you have achieved a lot in your organizations. Can you maybe sort of describe a bit sort of the positive outcomes, like the feedback that you see? I would expect that you have positive outcomes on having invested so much. Can you maybe describe that a bit?
Certainly. So increased customer understanding, which is benefiting not only the medical teams, but also your commercial teams, where you can bring those data to the commercial teams when launching a product. Who was interested, with whom we engaged before. Secondly, on the request of our field medical teams that were doing the effort to bring in more data, was also, and now the in-office medical teams and the global medical teams need to play the game as well, because they are doing also a lot of engagements. And then consequently, it's a little bit lead by example, that those teams are also jumping on it. And now we are in a stage where for the main congresses, or senior executives that are representing UCB to key experts are also playing the game and benefiting from all those mobile applications to quickly have an understanding with whom they need to talk, what are the interest points of that specific scientific expert that requested a meeting during those congresses, and what they are doing with UCB already in the past and currently.
Yeah, I think to your point, Pascal, especially our congresses as a focal point, so many functions coming together, so many HCPs, CKOs coming together. We did see great value in optimizing the meetings where you don't over-engage with specific HCP, CKOs, and then at the same time, you have transparency of how many meetings you're doing, or what strategic imperatives, what are you focusing on. And the senior leadership definitely, as you mentioned, really enjoy the ability to use the mobile app to be very quickly up to date with the HCP they're engaging with, so they can make the conversation much more personable and impactful to them. But I think at the same time, internally, looking at identifying new opportunities, new QLs, that really was a big win, where sometimes, as we mentioned before, you get stuck on who you know, and you think your environment, but this changes very quickly. And so using the platform allow you to identify new opportunities and new ACPs that are thought leaders, or they're affecting clinical trials and publication guidelines that you should engage. So that helped the teams and the field teams to identify those opportunities. And one of the also very big interesting things that happened was that as we rolled out some of the basics around it, people are also thinking about the next step, sort of, what about insight analysis? What about bringing those actionable insights, right? So you bring the basis, and then immediately the team starts to think, what about the next step? So that's really very, very impactful to see, and very nice to see that people recognize the first step, but they also recognize where do we need to be as an organization to be much more impactful.
I think that's very encouraging, right? If people start talking about the next step, right? That means they have followed you. So that's super interesting. So for those colleagues watching us, and they maybe want to embark on the journey, right? What would be your advice, how to get it started and how continue and ultimately be successful on the journey?
I mentioned earlier a little bit engage and mobilize the organization, but what also is a learning, because we start with a lot of ambitions. Don't try to do too much at the same time. Really focus who will be the end users of this solution, that you don't create too many change fatigue in that organization. And those end users have also other obligations, other objectives. If each half year or on a yearly basis make improvements with one team, it's already a success. And in the beginning, we have a lot of ambitions, a lot of different initiatives, what we can do, but we are all human beings. Not everyone have the same, I would say, priorities. So be really phased in that approach of the rollout of all those digital analytical solutions.
Yeah, totally agree. I think for us is also engage the stakeholders early, not only the people who use the platform, but the people who drive adoptance as change management champions. Also your compliance and other teams like legal that need to review those. Engage them early so they can see what you're trying to achieve, see the why, and they can be not roadblocks, but support you there. And also have the so what and why for the field teams. Make sure that you identify the benefit they will have, so then they can use the platform more effectively, understand what's in it for them, because they need to work as well to adopt the platform with more data, use it. But if they see the end goal, if they see how this will improve their day-to-day experience, then definitely will become users. And one learning that we had from our experience is if you have any compliance objections, ask why. Why is that the risk, or what is the problem? Because that way you can understand their view, and maybe you can work together to resolve it quicker than when you don't analyze the why behind it.
One question on the new technologies. So what does it mean that we have now artificial intelligence and advanced analytics and more data for medical affairs? What does it mean? How would it change medical affairs, or how does it already change medical affairs?
Obviously, Gen AI is a new technology that's moving very fast, and that's part of the challenge at the moment. I think definitely AI is here to stay. Gen AI is here to stay. We are using it even when we don't know about it, right? You have it in Microsoft 365. Now it's even more prominent as simple tasks like search tools. So I think Gen AI will be here to augment medical affairs. It will still need the expert in the loop. The human in the loop will be a crucial element. But I think Gen AI can help us optimize how we do certain tasks. I think it will help us reduce time to complete tasks, but it will also allow us to become a different skilled professional when it comes to medical affairs. We will have to develop the new skills, such as, for example, prompting, and we'll be able to really leverage this technology to help us do more things faster. I don't think it will replace medical affairs anytime soon, but will definitely be an augmented function by using Gen AI effectively.
I believe also that data analytics and AI has a promising future for medical affairs. It's already changing medical affairs today. We mentioned the KOL platforms. Insight detection, it's all based on, I would say, advanced analytics, AI solutions. The large language models will play a critical role in the future. But before, I would say, running to AI solutions, Gen AI, what we also observe is the data foundation is critical. We try to bring different data together from different internal systems, external systems, and having a good data layer, data governance, data standard, data management is quite important. And I'm pleased to see that during this summit also, there was a session on data products, data standardization, how they deal with the different commercial brand names across the markets, how they deal with the names of a certain product that is changing from research to clinical to commercialization. So there are coming solutions on the market that are easy and simple to implement, but then it's the whole change management and process related to this, how to make this happen. So I would say it's promising, but also focus a lot attention on data management, data governance, and data standards.
So one more question. How do we tie that back to the way that we measure medical impact, like these different boxes? How would you say sort of the benefits that you see of improving the collaboration, across the functions actually improves the impact of medical.
So we are at the start of our journey to define and measure medical impact. Of course, impact can only be measured if you have data. We see now with the increased adoption of our CRM system that there is already a lot of data coming in and also of good quality. So what you can measure will be managed, and we see that certainly at regional level, field medical leads are using those data to measure the performance and how they are progressing towards their objectives. And that kind of course correct is then possible. Without data, it can't be evaluated, we can't course correct, and step by step, if we are a little bit even better in collecting other data points, we can bring it all together to measure the impact that medical affairs is delivering to the company.
Yeah, and I think as we saw in the pyramid, the end goal is patient outcomes and impacting clinical practice, but we're not there yet. So I think what we see here, the impact mainly is around operational effectiveness. We see that we're driving impact around engagement and also around insights gathering and bringing back to the organization actionable insights. I think as we engage more, as we, to Pascal's point, we get more data, I think we'll have the possibility to fine-tune those elements so that we can ultimately impact patient outcomes and improve our impact to the healthcare environment even more.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us here. Thank you very much for sharing your insights. It's super helpful. And well, thank you. And thank you for watching.
Thank you, Christoph.